How important is it to be real, genuine, sincere? Off the charts, more important than ever. What's interesting, the word sincere comes from the Latin word sincera, which means without wax. Now, the theory goes that when Romans were making a sculpture, back in the ancient times, some sculptors would use wax to conceal the imperfections, the cracks in the marble, maybe a few mistakes. So when a sculpture was described as sincera, sincere, it was genuine quality, and there was no cover-ups, because the sun's going to eventually reveal the deception anyway, the cover-up. So the term came to mean honesty and authenticity. So let's talk about the importance of being real, sincere, genuine, and authentic. Let's do it.
Maximize your influence. Kurt Mortensen is the author of Persuasion IQ, Laws of Charisma, and the best-selling book, Maximum Influence.
Welcome back to Maximum Influence. Kurt Mortensen here, podcast 556. Thanks for being here. Tell your family and friends and enemies about the podcast. We can be found on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. And of course, everything you need, all the links from the podcast are at MaximizeYourInfluence.com. Also, the home to take your free Persuasion IQ assessment and check out our advanced training programs. So the keys to influence. There's always the standard, there's always the foundation, the things you need to work on. But one thing that's becoming more and more important is to persuade people how they want to be persuaded. Their culture, their personality, their education level, even their age. Human nature is human nature, but we change. Things are different. Some things become more important. Some things become less important. So your key is to persuade people how they want to be persuaded. Because you've always heard about the golden rule. Treat others how you like to be treated. No, they call it the platinum rule now, where you treat people how they want to be treated. Just because you want to be treated that way, persuaded that way, sold that way, does not mean they want to be treated or sold that way. The other shift is before in persuasion and sales, you started from A to Z. Oh, here's our company. This is what we do. Here's our product offering. Now, over 90% of the people have researched you or your company, your product or service. They know something. Very few are starting like, I have no idea what you do. So you need to find out where they are in the persuasion process and start there, because if they're on the letter M and you're starting on A, you're going to lose them. We all know attention spans are an all-time low. You've got to start the persuasion process where they are. So with that foundation, let's get into the persuasion blunder. Don't! I had a friend complaining about this the other day, and I thought about my experience, and it happens all the time. I went to get my rental car at the airport. Something was wrong. I didn't enjoy the expedited process. Something was wrong. I think the car wasn't in the stall. There was only one person on the counter, and there was 5 people in line. I was the 5th person. And I could see in the office someone on the phone and actually hear them laughing, having a conversation, and it didn't sound like a business conversation, like they were helping a customer. They were talking to a friend while there's a line. I don't know if it was their break, but when you can see someone that could help and you're patiently waiting, that does not help your perception of the company or give them that 5-star review everybody's been wanting. Then I saw this at the bank the other day. People just sitting at their desks, super long line. Now, I'm pretty sure they were trained. They could have hopped up and did it. Maybe they were working on something very important. But when people see you sitting there and you could help and you don't help, again, that hurts the perception of customer service, the company, everything. And then again at the grocery store, long line, people floating around that could help, that don't help. And as you know, people aren't very patient. So if that happens to you, at least hide. Don't let people see you. But unless you're going to a low-cost discount, there's no service, Walmart-type place, and you're going to be waiting in line, that's one thing. But other places where people don't expect to wait in lines can hurt their experience, their ratings of you, and if they ever come back. Because most people just don't come back, never tell you about it. I call it the persuasion pitfall, to where at a furniture store, someone pushes too hard. You get that feeling, I'll come back, and they're coming back, you never do. And you don't tell the store manager, you just never go back to the store. And that's true with business. That's true with restaurants. One and done. If you didn't like the food, you didn't like the service, you just don't go back. Most people just don't spend the time to put in the rating, to tell the manager. They just never come back. So that is our persuasion blunder of the week. And of course, go to the archives at maximizeyourinfluence.com if you want to understand the science of waiting and things you can do to distract people to think they're not waiting as long as they're really waiting. The science is fascinating. Which takes us to our geeky Scarly article. Can laughter make our lives better? Researchers say yes. Because especially when I was researching laws of charisma, humor, happiness is critical. Charismatic people are happier. They have a sense of humor. They have self-deprecating humor. They can laugh at themselves. They can bring the light up in the room, as they say. So this comes from Amy Schmidt, University of Arizona, and the Journal of Consumer Research. And they start off with, why do humorous dating profiles get more right swipes? Can being funny help solve problems? Is laughter really the best medicine? We've heard that one before. So the article says, funny people seem to move effortlessly through the world. Business articles and gurus prescribe humor as the key to effective workplace performance. I mean, if the workplace is not fun, people aren't smiling, not enjoying themselves, why would they work there? Just for the money? Yeah, probably for a while. And eventually they're going to be so depressed they're going to look for another job. And they say humor is a tremendous resource for solving problems, enhancing your relationships, and supporting both physical and emotional health. So also in on the study was Caleb Warren, who's a professor of marketing at the University of Arizona, went on to research how humor helps people reach their goals. It's interesting. He broke down goals into 3 categories. Hedonic goals, maximizing pleasure and minimizing pain. Utilitarian goals, optimizing long-term well-being. And social goals, getting along with others. So they go on to say that humor appreciation, basically laughter and amusement, helps people feel better by making positive experiences such as watching a movie, dining at a restaurant, more pleasant. And negative experiences like going to the dentist, waiting in line, like we talked about, more unpleasant. Sharing a laugh can also help people bond and get along better. We all know we're in a bad mood, we're in a rush, things are happening, and you're waiting in the line. That makes it worse. So laughing tends to make people more creative. But that interesting part, and they also said telling a joke can grab people's attention, but it can also make the message seem less important. And that's true. There's some topics that you just can't laugh about. For example, when someone wanted me to talk about bullying and harassment in the workplace, I'm like, can we make that funny? And the answer's not really. I mean, I talked about bullying. Basically, they don't have very many influence tools versus a leader who has lots of influence tools. But again, some topics are pretty tense. And if they laugh, sometimes it diminishes the meaning, the impact of the message, makes the message seem less important. Teasing, some personalities, some cultures do not get that. Telling insulting, offensive jokes can make the social interaction, as you know, a little awkward. And they even mentioned jokes about the weather or puns that don't make people laugh will not work. And I'm a big believer, and you've heard me say it before, they're either going to laugh with you or feel sorry for you. It's just how it is. So let me add from my research, humor creates rapport, makes you seem friendlier, people trust you more, makes your message more memorable, it enhances your relationship, it motivates people, it changes the mood in the room. But here's what's interesting. Humor can also distract your audience from negative arguments and can divert their attention away from the things you don't want them to focus on. So use humor cautiously. Things I used to use 10 years ago is now offensive, and I'm like, it is? I don't see it. But people are looking to be offended, so you have to be careful. And the humor in Italy is very different than Dubai, which is very different than Mississippi, which is different than Hawaii, and that's okay. And it's interesting, being cheerful, having a sense of humor is always associated with charisma and good leadership. Another study showed that humor connects you with your audience and increases their attention to your message. And my favorite, people are less likely to disagree with you when you use humor. Now, I'm not asking you to be a stand-up comedian, but you could get some improv training. You could learn to think on your feet. You can borrow humor, a meme, a poster, a picture, a funny video on YouTube. You could have more fun. You can use more humor. At least assign it to somebody in your meeting, in your group, in your presentation to tell a joke, to start with a joke, assign them a joke. Borrow it, assign it to someone else, practice your own humor, create a joke list, a humor list, links with things that are funny. It'll go a long, long way. And don't worry if they don't laugh or crack a smile. Some people just laugh on the inside. Hey, we live in a culture now, in a world now, we just need a laugh to smile, to feel good. People want to have fun. They want to laugh. They want to smile. That is key to humor. So that is your geeky, scholarly article. Use more humor, borrow more humor, be more humorific. And I know that's not a word, but it sounds fun. And life's better. You'll live longer. You'll make more money. You'll be more persuasive. You'll be more engaging. Use more humor. Which brings us to listener email. This comes from Lane, lives in Canada.
Oh boy!
He says, Kurt, I'm persuading with power and going through the perfect persuasive presentation. I'm becoming more charismatic and closing more sales. Awesome, Lane. He goes on to say, why do you think being real or genuine is more important now than in the past? Great question, and I have seen that too. That authenticity, that being genuine, the real, the sincerity I talked about earlier is more and more important. Now, why do I think that is? Well, trust is at an all-time low. It used to be, I trust you, give me a reason not to. Now it's, I don't trust you, give me a reason to trust you. When you look at history, your word was your bond. If you said something, you did it. There was no other option. Now we've got lawyers and contracts and people not keeping their word, and now it's not a big deal. Well, I said I would, but I don't want to. Things have changed. Times have changed. Again, your family's name, keeping your promise, was the most important thing ever. That's all you really had. So people just assumed you were telling the truth. You were going to do it. You were real. Then I think along comes government and politicians that lie for a living. I'm not saying 100%, but you know what I mean. Making it okay to lie for a living and make it okay to say whatever you need to say, act how you need to act to get the vote, to make people like you is problematic. And now we have the age of transparency where we can scrutinize everything. Everything's been recorded. We've caught people doing dumb things. In the past, if you did something dumb and nobody saw it, then it just kind of went away. Now it's on the internet forever. People posting misleading information, conflicting information. Who do you believe? Trust goes down. So people want that transparency, especially Gen Z. They value that transparency. They want to know the who, what, when, where, and why behind the brands, behind individuals, behind your motives. And with that rise in skepticism, that's caused a lot of distrust in marketing. People are less likely to trust the company, and that's where they go to the social validation, where they're looking for recommendations, 5,000 five-star reviews, and influencers who have a track record of being genuine and saying, yeah, this stinks, this one's good. We want to see those authentic values and see those values come through in their actions. And part of that too, and we've talked about this on the podcast, is cause marketing, where purpose is becoming more important than profit. I mean, profit's important. Consumers know that, but they want to see companies having a purpose, giving back, giving shoes away, giving meals away, giving fresh water away, giving money away to charity. That's become more and more important. So I would say being genuine, authentic, real, you can stand out more in the marketplace. You can build that trust. And when you have trust, persuasion and influence becomes easier. You build more loyalty, and again, you stand out. And you can create that genuine connection. They trust you. They like you. You say what you do. Your product works. Your service works. Now you can have a customer for life. That's always why we look at the LTV, the long-term value of a customer. Because it's so hard to get a customer, but so easy to lose a customer. We have to do whatever we can do to retain that customer. So how do we become more authentic, real, genuine, sincere? Well, always speak the truth in a kind way. But share your honest feelings, as long as they're not offensive and not truly hurting feelings. I'll talk about that in a second. But if you're known to talk about things even when they're not popular, but you're doing it respectfully, it makes a big day. When you say, I see where you're coming from, but I have a different take. Well, I agree with that, but let's take a look at this. Like last week we talked about, let's look at the pros and the cons. This opens the door for a real conversation, but we're making it empathetic. We're not trying to be offensive. We're looking at both sides. We're not just going with the crowd. So things that I've done with that is, do you want me to sugarcoat this? And I've never had anybody say yes, but you have permission to be honest and open. That makes a big difference. I mean, really, you really want to know what I think? Gives you permission. We don't have to tell everything that comes to our mind. Some things shouldn't be said, and we know that. But then sometimes always being honest and open, people do appreciate that, and they will come to you because you will tell them exactly what you think. Another way to crank up your authenticity and being more genuine is own your story. Be more open about your past experiences. You made mistakes, you've blown it, you've failed, you've struggled, you've hit rock bottom. Don't pretend to be perfect. And people love your before picture because they want your after picture. But if you could explain your before picture, they trust you more. You're more authentic. Yeah, I was overweight. Yeah, I was bankrupt. Yeah, my kids weren't obedient. Yeah, I couldn't get out of bed. Whatever it is, be honest, be open. But you've fixed that. You've done that. So own up to your past mistakes. And I would even say current mistakes. And the worst thing you do here is blame other people for your mistakes. Take ownership. I blew it. Let's fix it. Let's go. That makes a big difference. Another one is being reliable. You're consistent. When you're unpredictable, that destroys trust. That destroys being genuine. If you tell everybody around you value family, but you're working 20 hours a day, that could be a disconnect. So be consistent. Be in sales, as they say, a product of the product. If you're asking them to use the product, you're using it too. Are you doing what you're asking other people to do? That's the definition of leadership. You're asking your children to clean your room, but they look at your garage. You're asking your children not to smoke, but you are. You're asking people to work the weekend, but you won't. That's all about being consistent and predictable. Basically, your actions match your words. And also, be able to celebrate other people's victories. Be happy for others when they have success, they had a good weekend, they went on vacation, instead of comparing yourself to them. Well, we went to Paris, and you're like, oh, I've been to Paris 3 times, and this is my favorite restaurant. Did you go there? No, it's about them. Let it be about them. When someone gets a promotion, not feeling jealous, being excited for them, sincerely say, that's awesome, I'm proud of you, you deserved it. And this comes down to one of the big ones I found in Maximum Influence, and why esteem is one of the laws of persuasion, is learning to praise others. If you can be excited for others, celebrate others, praise others, that makes a big difference. And we don't praise enough. Sometimes we don't praise because of our own low self-esteem, but we can praise better, praise more, and you'll be more genuine and authentic and real, and people like you more, and they're easier to persuade. Bottom line, when you bruise someone's self-esteem, it shuts the doors to persuasion influence. You enhance it, it opens the doors. It keeps the doors open. And the easiest, quickest, bestest, fastest way to do that is learning how to praise, learning how to celebrate others. So this all comes back down to character. It's one of the 5 C's of trust. And character is made up of that integrity, honesty, sincerity, and predictability, some of the things that we talked about. And that goes back to the question, Newsweek magazine published findings about character in the workplace. And they found that today's workers are more tolerant of deception. Many feel that lying and cheating are acceptable. Another survey found that nearly half of workers engage in unethical or illegal acts. Now, I'm not saying that it's okay because other people are doing it. I'm just saying it's a trend. That's why being real, genuine, sincere, authentic is more important now than ever before. So there you have it. That's podcast 556. All the links will be available at maximizeyourinfluence.com. By popular demand, going to continue with the lifetime membership of influenceuniversity.com. Now, there is a free area. You can check it out, but this will allow you to influence on command. There's a 52-week advanced mastery program. There's a library. There's my books on audio, videos, seminars, and persuasion software that persuades for you. 90% discount, lifetime membership. Check it out, influenceuniversity.com/special, or go to the link in your email or at maximizeyourinfluence.com. Become more transparent, become more real, sincere, improve your character, crank up your authenticity, be genuine, and go out and persuade with power.